Long ago, in the wide deserts of Arabia, there lived a mighty king named Sultan Karim. His palace was built of marble and gold, with tall towers that touched the sky. The king lived there with his queen and a son. The palace was always filled smell of sweets. For Sultan Karim loved sweets, and his royal cooks prepared the most delicious candies, pastries, and puddings every day. The scent of honey and rosewater drifted across the city, teasing the poor who could only breathe in the fragrance but never taste a bite. Among those poor was a potter named Motu. He shaped clay with his hands and painted bright patterns on jars and pitchers, yet he earned barely enough to buy bread. His only companion was his best friend, a clever little mouse named Kaskas. At night, when Motu returned home tired, Kaskas would chatter, "Don't be sad, my friend. One day, fortune will knock on our door." But Motu sighed. "How can fortune find a poor man like me? Even the king's sweets, Kaskas, we can only smell them. My heart longs for just one taste." Kaskas's whiskers twitched with thought. "Why don't you make something for the king himself? Give him your finest jars. But instead of asking for money, ask for sweets." Motu's eyes lit up. "Kaskas, you are wiser than 100 men." The very next day, Motu worked with all his strength. He molded clay, painted golden patterns, and polished until the jars shone like treasure. When the king saw the jars, he was delighted. "These are marvelous. What reward shall I give you, potter?" Motu bowed low. "Your Majesty, I do not wish for gold. I only wish for some sweets for myself and my friends." Sultan Karim laughed with joy. "Then so it shall be. My royal cooks will prepare trays of sweets for you and all your friends. This is my promise." Motu hurried home with the king's promise burning in his heart. Kaskas squeaked with delight and spread the news to every mouse in the city. "Come, cousins. Come, brothers. The king has promised sweets for us all." That very night, hundreds of mice poured into the palace. They leapt onto the tables, gnawed through sugar baskets, and rolled dates across the marble floor. The kitchen turned into chaos. The king was horrified. "What have I done?" cried Sultan Karim. "How do we rid ourselves of these mice?" He called his wise ministers. They whispered, "Bring cats from every corner of the land. Cats will chase away the mice." So cats were brought black, white, striped, and spotted. They prowled the palace, and the mice fled in fear. But soon another problem began. The cats grew proud. They lounged on velvet cushions, scratched the king's carpets, and even licked sugar from the royal plates. "Enough," the king shouted. "I cannot live with these cats." Again, the ministers advised, "Bring dogs to chase away the cats." So dogs came, big and small, barking and growling. They chased the cats into the desert. But the dogs themselves began to rule the palace. They howled in the courtyards, fought over food, and ate the sweets meant for the king. Furious, the king brought in wolves to drive out the dogs. Then, when the wolves caused havoc, he brought in tigers. When the tigers grew wild, he brought in lions. At last, the palace no longer belonged to Sultan Karim. It belonged to roaring beasts who sat on his throne and slept on his silken bed. The king, queen, and prince had no place to live. They wandered the desert, ashamed and afraid. One night, under the stars, Prince asked softly, "Father, why did all this happen?" The king lowered his head. "Because I forgot the meaning of my promise. I welcomed one creature, then betrayed it for another. And now, the palace is gone. Just then, Motu and Kaskas found them by the desert well. Kaskas twitched his nose. Your Majesty, do you still remember your first promise? The king's eyes filled with regret. Yes, little mouse. I promised sweets for you and your friends. But I broke that promise. I drove you away. Kaskas said firmly, if you want our help again, you must swear never to betray us. No more cats. No more tricks. The king placed his hand on his heart. This time, I give you my word. I will honor it till my last breath. So the mice returned. They poured into the palace like a silver river. They nibbled the lions' tails, tickled their ears, and bit their paws. The great lions, who feared no man, could not bear the swarm of tiny creatures. With furious roars, they fled back to the jungle. The palace was free at last. Sultan Karim wept with relief. He ordered a grand feast for the mice. Trays of sweets lined the halls, and the mice danced with joy. As they feasted, Kaskas raised his paw. Remember, Majesty, it is not strength that rules the world, but trust. Even the smallest friend can become your greatest ally, if only you keep your word. The king bowed his head before the little mouse. From this day on, my promise is sacred. And so the palace once again filled with smell of sweetness. But this time, the fragrance did not belong only to the royals. The king ordered that every week, sweets be shared with the people of the city. Motu, the potter, finally tasted the desserts he had dreamed of. If you enjoy this story, please like the video and subscribe the channel.